Hey you guys, it is Esoteric Empress, Goddess Serenity, and today I have an interesting topic. I am wondering if I had a chance to do things differently, what would I have done differently? And a lot of times you sit down and think you're not living in a regretful place. You know, everything led up to where you are now. You appreciate every moment. But some things you have to think about and wonder, what would I have done differently? And so I sat down and I actually made a little list of some things. And that's what I want to talk about today. Living life is life itself is a lesson, and we have lessons, many lessons each and every moment of the day to learn these lessons. But if you don't reflect on the past is the past for a reason. It is behind you. You can't change it anymore. However, if you don't reflect on the past, you will never be able to make better, more informed choices in the future, because these opportunities, these situations and scenarios arise again. They constantly come up in different ways. If you hadn't learned the lesson before, it's going to come up again and give you another opportunity to learn this lesson. And this is why most people continue to repeat the same mistakes day in and day out, because they have not faced these lessons. They have not actually come in touch with their past. It may feel uncomfortable to do, but I think you should. Not very often. Sometimes, it's important when you're doing it for the right reasons. You're not doing it to mope and to get into depression and stuff from what happened 10 years ago. But you want to look at the bigger picture, because hindsight is 2020. So without further ado, 10 things I wish I had done differently in my life. The first one I have right here is letting life make my choices for me. Like by default. Default choices. Growing up in a situation where I grew up with my grandmother. Of course, mom and dad were alive. They were young, healthy, springing chicken, like the old people call them. But that was my scenario. That was the hand of cards that I was dealt. So coming from that place, I believe that growing up, it made me think that I have to just take whatever comes along. Anytime people came along and they're like, oh, well, this is Sue, she's been with Bets for a long time and stuff like that. This is like Bet's next child. So that was a good feeling, but at the same time, in my subconscious, I believe that made me just like complacent. It made me not really complacent, but it made me kind of accept a lot of things that I did not know then, that I had a choice whether or not I had to accept this. And a lot of things I accepted that I had no reason to. I just did it because it felt like it came to me, like some offer was being given to me. And the same thing, it started off, of course, it starts with your jobs, with boys, with all of that kind of stuff. You don't have to take the things that just come along. You choose what comes along, what you allow to come along and to be a part of your existence. So that's number one, letting life make its own choices for me, like by default. Number two, what was this? I can't even understand my own writing. What's going on here? Okay, number two, backing down from certain threats. That was a big one for me, because I was so soft in school. Oh my God, it's just pathetic. It's so sad. Because when I look back at it now, there were many days when I didn't even want to go to school. Like, I had my uncle was like this big cop. He was a police officer, and so that was like my knight in shining armor. He was my savior. He was like, anytime something came up, call my uncle. Like, and it's so crazy to think about now, because like looking at this situation now, I am so completely the opposite person from back then. I was so afraid. I remember there were times when I would go in the bathroom mirror and practice to cuss, because my little voice was so soft, and I was like, oh my God, she can't say the word ass. Like, she said ass. And now I am the person who has to struggle to not curse. Isn't that hilarious? But lifetime really changes a lot of things. But backing down from certain threats, I was so afraid of harmless things, harmless people, people who just sometimes were just like, they just were good at this. They can bark and bark and bark, but they'll never bite. But then I would have been at that place where I wanted to have a nervous breakdown or a heart attack because I was so in fear of them. And as I got older, I learned that, what are you fearful of? What makes this person so different from you? What makes them so much more stronger than you or so much more powerful than you? What are they going to do to you? What can they do to you? And as I got older with that kind of mentality, it made it less scary, less fearsome, to say the least. I mean, I had bullies, but they were really verbal bullies in school. They never put their hands on me, because if they did, I think even as as shy as I was back then, I think I would have let loose on them. But at the time, just their words alone, the words crushed me. And now that I'm older, I realize a lot of things that they were saying to me, it made no sense, because these people were the exact same person as me. Like, if you're talking about a person's skin color, you're talking about, a person's aptitude or whatever, you can't do that, because you're in a position, first of all, you are not any different from them. Now, when it came to intelligence, you may be on a lower scale, but other than that, you're no different from them. So what am I afraid of? I tell my kids this all the time. Like, they can't believe that I was the person who was getting bullied in school, because I'm such a different person now. They never would have known that this Sue in 7th or 8th grade, they would have never known this was the same person had they seen a video clip or something like that of me. But that's just life, Time changes a lot of things. Number 3. I wish I had been more courageous about my beliefs. Number 3. That's number 3. I was very much a people pleaser. I was very afraid of what people thought of me. Their opinions of me really mattered, like it really mattered, okay? And I think that's coming from a place where, like I said, I grew up with my grandma and stuff like that, and I wanted to make her happy. Of course, my uncles and stuff, everybody cared about me going to school on time, regularly, getting good grades, all of that. So I wanted to please them. I wanted to make them happy. I wanted to make them feel like, well, I'm not just here in vain. Like I'm actually pulling my weight. I'm doing something to help myself and to make them proud. So when it came to my beliefs, my more spiritual beliefs, of course, as a child, as a teenager, people think you don't have your own beliefs, that you should just take on and adopt whatever they teach you, which is not true, because as you get older, as long as you have a mind of your own, you have beliefs of your own. And I wish I had stood more true to those things as from a younger age. I'm happy I didn't. I think it all played out the way it was supposed to, because sometimes the whole dynamic needs to shift, and in order for puzzle pieces to fit, some pieces need to move. All right, and that's what I think it took place. But being more courageous about it, I definitely was courageous about my beliefs, because I remember one time there was in school one day when everything changed for me, because it was a prayer day. It was in Spanish, I believe, but I was in 10th or 11th. I was in 11th or 12th grade, and I think I told this story before. I did not want to close my eyes to say prayer before we left class, and because of that, I was labeled all kinds of things, that I didn't believe in God and all this kind of stuff, which was no true. But at that time, that was the event that took place that kind of made me stand more true to what I believed. But wish I'd done it sooner. Number 4. Wish I had said no more. That's a good one, because I was a people pleaser. And anybody who just met me, if you knew me for 3 seconds, hey, you can ask her for that. You can ask her for the shirt off her back and she'll give it to you, because I would have. And there was this girl who used to torment me. Oh my gosh, she used to torment me every day of my life, like every day of my life. Once I went to school, that is. And she didn't care if you had a cookie. She didn't care if you had a pack of cookies. She didn't care if you had a piece of cookie that you got from someone else. She would have asked you for it. And I would have said, yeah, I gave it to her. Till it reached a point where I started starving myself at school. I started just drinking like a Sprite soda and a winter fresh gum at lunchtime, just so I didn't have lunch, so that she could not beg me. And how pathetic is that? Like, thinking about it right now, like, I would never do that. I would tell her no. Simply put, I'd tell her no. But back then, I was afraid. I was afraid of people calling me mean. I was afraid of maybe her response to me at the time, because she was a little more, she was like a tomboy. She was a little on the tough side. Like, and the funny thing about that is now this person, like I said, has a big time position. They're like, in the legal system, I think even in politics, and no one would ever believe that this was the person who made my life a living hell. But it's all about this, and that's why I said you have to go back to these things in your mind, because your past is what creates your present, and that is what is going to create your future. So you have to recognize and face these things. Nothing changes until you face it. Number 5, say no. More, not all the time, say no. Number 5, maybe this one is not so strong as the other ones, but I put this down because it is true, and I see what the older people meant about settling down too young. Yeah, you know about that, huh? I think that would be something I would have changed had I known what I know now then. I would have made a difference in my decision making, but I can't change it anymore. Then it just is what it is right now, and I'm happy because now I'm going to be that person who, once their kids are old enough to go on their own and stuff like that, to still be youthful, enjoy my life and enjoy my young life without having to worry about raising a 3-year-old at like 47 years old. So I'm happy that it worked out that way. And I have 2 kids, 2 beautiful, wonderful kids, who I would not trade for the world. So that one is not as bad as the others, because that's something that's just life that happens, and you move with it. You just go with it. But the settling down part is another part. It's another part to having kids, because the kids are a different thing. But when you have a partner, a spouse, you settle down from such a young age, you kind of, when you get, let's say 30, you feel like a 50-year-old, okay? Because you've lived so much life. And some people have it so good that they have aunties, they have godmothers, they have grand aunties, they have all of these people, sisters and cousins, and all of these people who help out with their family, who do things for them. They go away together, they do all of these stuff together. But when you come from a place where you don't have that support system, you don't have that safety net, you don't have a net at all, that's when you look at it as a little tough. But at the same time, it's a benefit to it, because you need that support. You have someone to call your own. You have someone as your best friend, a protector, somebody who's with you, even though you may not have all of that family structure and everything. You still have somebody there to call your own. But like I said, when it's too young, you don't know who you are yet most of the time. You haven't, like I said, time changes things. So you haven't really matured to the point where you know exactly who you are, what you want, what your goals are, what you're good at, what your strengths and all of this kind of stuff. And nor does the other person. So as time goes by, you start to grow, and some people grow apart. They may have been like, hopelessly in love. But then as you get older, when you're hitting about 30 now, you realize, and this person is a completely different being than the person I met or the person I fell in love with. And it takes a lot of growing. It takes a lot of compromise. It takes a lot of all of that, just like if you have a child, you have to do these things for your child. The same thing goes with a spouse. You know, you have to grow together basically. When you start off really young, you're like you're growing up together too. And children, of course, makes that a little challenging, but it's nothing to be afraid of. I've been married now 13 years. It's a long time. And so we know it's a process. It's a growing thing. It's a life lesson. It's a learning experience. It's an adventure actually. So that's something I probably would have considered thinking about more back in the past. The settling down part. I wouldn't have to worry about having kids if I didn't settle down with anybody. Some people beg to differ. Number 6. That was number 5. Number 6. Yes, with my grandmother. I would have been a lot different with her. Had I known what I know now, I would have been more of a healer to her, more of a confidant to her, more of, strength to her. I was strength. I was, a good grandchild, I think. I was her best grandchild, in fact. But at the same time, me and her used to have a lot of arguments because of my teenage struggles. All of the things that I was going through as an only kid in the house, we didn't exactly see eye to eye a lot of times. And sometimes I would lose my temper and slam the door and all this kind of stuff when she was bedridden with like rheumatoid arthritis or something like that, and really having her own grief to deal with. And then now she has this adolescent grief to deal with, my own struggle, and I'm like, oh, whatever, she's like, oh my gosh, like, what do you really care about anything? But looking back on it now, I definitely would have done that a lot differently. It's a lot of things you can't change about a person, about someone else. You can do your part, but you can't make them do something so differently because they have to be in that frame of mind already. But at the same time, I would have been a lot more patient, a lot calmer. The things that I see now, she always told me that I would have, and I didn't believe her, but now I do because she's no longer here. It's like I am the living embodiment of of the way she thought, like the way she practiced things. Now, a lot of things I decide I have to change because I don't want to go down that same road mentally or emotionally. But a lot of things I will allow to stay because those are the things that gave me principles. Those are the things that actually gave my life substance. And so I know what to keep and what to release. But that's something that I definitely would have done differently were I able to. Number 8, that's number 7. Number 7. Okay, this is basically the same as number 3. Okay, well, number 3 is different because I said number 2 was not backing down from certain threats. And when I say that, I talk about bullies and stuff like that in school. But number 7 is not letting bullies get to me in school. And that showed me the difference right there, because the backing down from certain threats was a lot of things that occurred after school. I left school, things that happened. I had an opportunity to be in a completely different place in my life, but I backed down from it because it was intimidating at the time, and it felt like I was alone in the fight, and so I surrendered. I retreated. Like it was sad to think about it now, because I would not have backed down now. I would not. Okay, but lessons. But the bullies, I talked about that just a while ago. That definitely would not have happened, because trust me, I would have cut them down quick. I don't have time anymore. Number 8, not spend so much time goofing off and actually learning a skill or doing something passionate with my life. I spend most of my life growing up either on the telephone or on the internet, okay? Because most of the people in my class, we didn't have computers weren't like how it is now. So like say for instance back in 97, 96, 97, you know, it's like 1% of the whole school with a computer and internet access at the same time. But I had it. Me and my best friend had it. Like we had it. And it took a lot of our lives away from us because we spent it just goofing off. We spent it playing The Sims. The Sims has been out from 1997, okay? And I had it from 1997. And even though it's not popular right now, a lot of kids don't even know what the hell that is. They're still coming out with new ones, but at the same time, trust me, I'll get all of them. But at the same time, I could have been doing something so much more productive. I could have been like joining the Rangers program. I could have been like on the Defense Force. I could have been like doing a lot of things productively that's going to make me an income, that's going to actually propel me in my life. I would have done that differently. Because the same people, like my grandma always used to tell me, the same people that you waste your life with, you don't know their situation, you're not looking at their whole dynamic of their family and stuff like that. They may have a dad who can give them money and support them for the rest of their life when you don't. So you need to do things differently from them. And that's what I try to teach my children now. You need to be able to see things, see the bigger picture of everything and do things differently and put yourself first. Number 9, gone off to college or school. I wish I had done that, like a tertiary program, because I said, all right, when I came out of school, I did flight school, I did the ground school, and I did like maybe about 8 or 9 hours of airtime. I really wanted to fly, I really wanted to model, I really wanted to be a doctor, I really wanted to do these things. But when I got out of school, I said, you know what, I just wanted to get out of school so bad that I said, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to relax myself for like at least 6 months to a year and just stretch my legs and figure out what I want to do exactly. And when that year had passed, you know what I ended up with? A son. Then you know what I ended up with? A husband. Then you know what I ended up with? Well, I mean, rent was before all of that. But needless to say, that goal or that dream or that plan failed because I procrastinated. I waited too long. And when I thought about it, if I had just come out of school and went straight into whatever next area of life that I was going to go into, nothing could have stopped me. But money is a serious thing. It's like, you know, it's a big illusion, but it's also something, a necessary part of life, you know, in the society. So I look at it and, you know, you just try to do the best you could moving forward day after day. And last but not least, this is number 10. This is one of the most minimal one of the wishes. Number 10, cut my hair. Cut my hair. My hair would have been like almost on the floor by now, like, and I cut my hair. And I didn't cut my hair because I wanted to cut my hair. I cut my hair because of being influenced, because of being nagged, I should say, day after day. You should cut your hair. You should cut your hair. You should cut your hair. And I'm like, you know what, it is just hair. You know, I could use a different look. It's starting to feel a little frumpy anyway, so let me just chop. Here I am now. But, you know, in everything you look back and you say, life goes on. You're not gonna like throw yourself over the bridge because of a decision that you made and it may not have worked out or whatever. All things work for the good of those who believe. So once you believe it's going to work, it's going to work. And you keep working towards it, because the faith without work is dead. So just looking at this little thing, this is my little reminiscing for the day. And let that be done, because I hate dwelling in the past. So hope you guys sit down and think about this. What would you have done differently if you could look back? What would you have changed, or what would you have never done at all? I'm curious to know. So just in the comments, let me know. And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, because I have lots more wonderful topics and conversations we need to have. Let's get real, guys. So until I come back, peace, love, and blessed be.